Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Mark Moses Show podcast. As we're always broadcasting live from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. You want more information on Anidjar and Levine? Hey, just go to my website at markmosesshow.com for all the details. Let's go to Atlanta, Georgia. It's a very busy man, but I got to talk some football with him. He is my great friend, anchor and reporter, Luke Hetrick. Luke, how you doing today?
It's always a pleasure to be with you, man. Let's get right into it because I know we're talking off camera. We have a multitude of topics to get into.
Yeah, we do. And I'm sorry if I blew up your phone on Sunday, but you as a Penn State football fan, forget Atlanta for a second. We got to get to this. What were your thoughts when your Lions got rid of James Franklin?
Who knew all it took for me was moving south of the Mason-Dixon line to get real professional questions about Penn State football? Because when I lived in the state, no one cared for my opinion. But now that I'm out, I'm like the expert in the Southeast on all things Penn State football. Look, there are so many schools of thought here, but it is two main ones. It's really the questions you ask are, was it the right time? Was this the move to make? And then the follow-up to that is, well, who are you going to get? And so many people live in fear of that second question because James Franklin consistently is winning 10 games every single year. He's giving them a chance to have a chance. It's a great place to be perennially in college football. But you're wondering after 12 seasons, when are you going to break through? So without looking at that second half and going, okay, well, there could be a drop-off because James Franklin's a pretty good head coach. Trying to tackle that first question, to me, was much more important. And I think Penn State handled that. So was I expecting the timing of it to be mid-season? No. I think based on the way things went, those were two embarrassing losses to UCLA and Northwestern. And you saw it wasn't so much about X's and O's or players. That was a culture that shifted very quickly after that loss to Oregon in a whiteout. That was a team who's been there going, we've been knocking on the door. We're almost there. And for 3-4 years, we have to have this same speech over and over again. I know we didn't win the big game, guys, but now we got 4 or 5 more games. And if we win all that, we can still go win a national championship and get into the playoff. When you hear that over and over again, and you consistently are coming up short in the big game, eventually you're going to lose that psychological edge. And that's what happened to Penn State. And you now have an aggressive athletic director in Patrick Kraft, who now has an opportunity to put his stamp, his legacy here with Penn State. He made a legacy fire, and now he has to make a legacy hire. So when the stakes are very high with Penn State, when you clear it all out, it was probably the right move at the right time. But again, moving on from James Franklin, given all the success he had in a decade plus in Happy Valley, it's a risk for sure.
It reminds me of when Tennessee fired their coach. And this happened a couple of years ago. And they brought in different names. They're throwing out names, and the fans were not happy. Could you have this situation as well? Whatever name they bring up, people are going to lose their minds.
Naturally. And when you're in a situation like this, where I'm at right now, an hour and 15 minutes away from Athens, Georgia, they did this a decade ago. Mark Richt winning 10 games consistently, but the knock on him is he can't win the big one. He started to come up short routinely against Nick Saban. He wasn't even getting to the SEC championship game when it was divisions, when the path in the East at that time seemed much more feasible. So that's where it was. Hey, you're happy in Athens. Things are going well. We know we can do better than that as the University of Georgia. So they took a risk and brought in a guy who had never been a head coach before. Thankfully, it has worked out, and they have the best coach in the sport. You could also go Bo Pelini at Nebraska. That's the other side to this, winning 9 games every year, getting them from the Big 12 into the Big 10, being competitive. And then you move off of him because you think we could do better, and you go to Mike Riley and Scott Frost, and that program still hasn't recovered. Now, Matt Rule, we'll see, give it some time. If it is still time with Matt Rule, that's something I'm sure we'll get into momentarily. But there is a risk moving on from James Franklin. And Penn State and their athletic department is willing to take that risk right now.
Does this new coach have to win right away?
Yeah, I think within reason. It's got to be 3-4 years. I'm not saying you win a national championship, but you got to show it's not so much winning national championships, because there are programs out there, Mark, that win 10 plus games every year. Oregon is winning 10 or more games every year, but Oregon's winning the right games. Oregon is beating, when they're in the Pac-12, the USCs, the Washingtons of the world, the big games for them. And then they come into the Big Ten and they beat the Ohio States, the Michigans. They beat a Penn State in a Big Ten championship game last year on a road trip to Happy Valley. So Oregon's winning games. What the problem was with Penn State is James Franklin's 1-10 against Ohio State, 1-10. And that one, a lot of people now, hindsight's 2020, is seen as a fluke victory. They needed some special teams miracles, a block kick return for a touchdown to beat an Ohio State team that was banged up at that time with JT Barrett at quarterback. 1-10 against Ohio State. With talent, there is a gap, but it's not much. It's not much of a gap. Penn State is recruited very well, and scheme-wise, they typically match up well with Ohio State. So it's very similar to Alabama and Georgia. People in the Peach State were tired of seeing the guy right next door win the national championships, come in and take their talent out of the state and win with them. James Franklin was always very competitive with Ohio State, but it was always what it came down to, a lot of in-game decisions, coaching mistakes that typically cost Penn State in situations like that. So 1-10 against Ohio State, 3-7 against Michigan, a lot of losses to Jim Harbaugh. And you look at the last couple of years coming into this season, Mark, 34-8 for James Franklin. But those 8 losses, a combination of Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Notre Dame, and Ole Miss in a bowl game. They're losing to the heavy hitters. It's one thing to win a couple of those games and then have a letdown against a Minnesota or an Indiana at the time, not anymore.
Yeah.
But to always consistently be losing that big game, that wears on a program, and really it wears on a fan base where they're coming into every season going, we have no hope. We're expecting 10-2 because we have not seen anything to give us any reason to believe we're going to win these big games.
As a guy that was born in Evanston, Illinois, I take great pride. I take great pride that what's the breaking point? Losing to Northwestern when you're a 20-point favorite. Dude, it was you know this better than anyone. Back-to-back weeks, 20-point favorite, lose both. Wild. Yeah. Just wild. Go on.
No, and I was going to say, it's a great point to make with that, because part of the background of this is James Franklin is always very, very calculated at the mic. There is not a word that comes out of his mouth that is just free, that is off the cuff. Everything he says has a purpose. There have been 2 instances where people have really taken his words to heart. 2018, they lost to Ohio State, having a 2-score lead in the 4th quarter. And James Franklin gave this famous speech of, we're a very, very good program. We're a great program. We are not elite. That is what he said when he was hired, and he said it after this game, that we are not elite as a program. And for a 2 to 3 year stretch after that, that program declined. They went to 9 wins, to 4 during the pandemic, to a 7-6 season. And that's when you're thinking, okay, maybe a change is necessary at that point. James Franklin was able to rebound, but people still hold on to that elite comment. Then it was coming into this year, Mark. You had Drew Aller coming back, who was a former prize recruit, #1 overall quarterback prospect in the country. You've had him in the building for 4 years. Your starter going into a 3rd season. You bring back 2 really solid NFL caliber running backs. You go into the transfer portal and get wide receivers, which everyone from the outside has said that's been the problem for Penn State. They haven't been able to get playmakers on the outside. They go and get Jim Knowles, the national champion defensive coordinator for Ohio State, who's tormented them the last couple of years, give him $3 million to bring him in. And James Franklin says, this is the best roster I have ever had in Happy Valley. This is the team that's going to get us to a national championship. We believe that. And the product on the field, even before that Oregon game, 3 games in, going up against cupcakes all down the line, was very poor, gave fans a lot of concern. And now you've seen it unfold in a combination of bad game planning, the schematics are terrible, and now you just have a program that is just in a culture shock and just doesn't believe in the messaging from the guy up top anymore. And that's why they're 3-3, and that's why the coaching change is made.
We're here. Luke Hendrick does a great job covering college football. All right, so there's multiple reports today saying that Billy Napier will probably be out this weekend there in Gainesville. Doesn't matter, win or lose, they're going to take on Mississippi State. All right, the fun question to start fights on Twitter or X, whatever it's called, is what would be a better opening? taking the job at Florida if it's open or at Penn State? And there's no wrong answers here with this question.
There's no wrong answer. And I think what you've seen, there are flaws with Billy Napier. When you hear him talk and you see the way he's approached this program and what he says at the mic and how he's built his staff and how he's gone about assembling talent and acquiring it, everything sounds great, Mark. Everything sounds fantastic. And you're doing all the necessary things to win games, except you're not winning games. And you look at where Florida's going to be in the landscape of college football right now. Well, Florida's starting to become kind of that lost program in the SEC. Now, it is Florida. It is the flagship program in that state. It is the most fertile ground for recruiting talent. So you get the right voice in there that can keep a lot of those guys in state, that can get a lot of these guys in the transfer portal that are the right pieces to come in right away. You can have success there, but you're going to be going through the gauntlet every single week, even with the new realignment, the 3 guaranteed, conference opponents that they will get every single year. It's going to be tough for Florida. So it is high risk, high reward there. I would say it's probably a better job to have more success in state college right now to go take that Penn State job, given where this program's at and giving James Franklin a ton of credit for getting it to that point. But again, the ceiling and the expectation more than anything is much higher in state college, but there still are opportunities to go be able to stockpile wins against lesser talent in the Big Ten.
Tell us about this Georgia Tech coach then, because his name gets floated around. What's his name? And look, dude, the Yellow Jackets are kicking some butt right now.
Brent Key was hired a few years ago on an interim basis, got that job when they had moved on from Jeff Collins after Georgia Tech got embarrassed again by UCF. And what Brent Key has done to that point has been a 7-1 record against ranked ACC opponents. He is building a fantastic program there, and he is that name that people throw out. He's a big personality. His players love him. He's done a great job of assembling a staff and replacing guys that have moved on. So he's checked a lot of boxes so far. The recruiting uptick, the transfer portal. Haynes King is one of the toughest SOBs in college football right now. He got him when a lot of people thought he was damaged goods after his time at Texas A&M. So Brent Key has checked all the right boxes, but a lot of people are forgetting about this. He is Georgia Tech through and through. He left a job at Alabama as offensive line coach, replacing Mario Cristobal there, to then take a job to do the exact same thing at Georgia Tech under Jeff Collins. That's how much he loves Georgia Tech. Now, he is an Alabama guy born in Birmingham. So, yes, you connect the dots. You keep an ear out for anything like that. Certainly, people had rabbit ears in this part of the country after what happened to Alabama week 1. You keep an eye on Auburn and everything like that with Hugh Freeze. But Brent Key has made it very clear. We had asked him yesterday about hearing his name get floated around, and he was very transparent, and it was a refreshing answer that he had said, when you have success, any player, your name gets shared in a positive light, it comes with the territory. But if you ask any guy in the locker room, they'll tell you where I stand, how I feel on this. And if one of them came to me and said, Coach, you got to address this and have a conversation, I'd go do it right away. So Brent Key, for the time being, is here to stay. But I think as time goes on, those questions aren't going to stop, specifically if he continues to have the success and the trajectory continues on the path that it is on the flats here in Atlanta.
Could you make a case that Georgia Tech and Miami are the 2 best teams in the ACC right now?
Yes, you can. You very much can. I think what people need to realize with Georgia Tech is their record right now, as things stand, is going to look a lot better than the on-field product. There are still some holes with Georgia Tech. Their run defense has been an issue. They faced a lot of mobile quarterbacks this year. They lost some depth on that defensive line last year. They become, in my opinion, a little too reliant on Haynes King. But still, what this program is very, very good at is finding ways to win. One of the knocks on them the last couple of years, they got to play a certain style. They got to play with a lead. They can't play from behind. They've had to play catch up a couple times this year against lesser competition, but they found ways to get the job done. They're going to have their biggest test this weekend at Duke against Manny Diaz, who's a mastermind of a defensive coordinator. Even though he's a head coach, he's a great defensive mind. And Darren Mensah's one of the most underrated players in the country from the quarterback position. So Georgia Tech has a chance here to go into this Georgia game potentially undefeated. I don't think that'll be the case, but the schedule breaks for them very favorably. Miami, on the other hand, is probably the best team in the ACC. I don't think that's really, up for discussion. I don't even know why I said probably. They are the best team in the ACC. The question is Miami the best team in the country right now? Ohio State has proven to be in that conversation year in and year out. But what Carson Beck has done since going down there, everything fits. It works really well. And this is a more complete Miami team. Even though they got off to that hot start with Cam Ward a year ago, you feel differently this time around just because all the pieces really seem like they're coming together in Coral Gables. So those are the two best teams right now in the ACC in my estimation. I think Miami is a legitimate national champion threat.
I think so too, but the problem is I saw what happened to them last year. I mean, dude, the guy was the number one pick in the NFL draft, and he should have won the Heisman Trophy if Miami had any type of defense. They have a defense this year. So maybe it's going to be fascinating to see how they play down the stretch. Okay, I know you got a couple minutes, then I got to let you go. All right. That quarterback from Tampa, Florida, who's now the starting quarterback there for the Atlanta Falcons. Dude, how big of a win was that against the Buffalo Bills on Monday night?
That was seismic for them. That was a win where we kind of thought, okay, if this team's worth their skis, and there's been a lot of talk about Atlanta in the offseason. There always seems to be talk about Atlanta every offseason, sometimes for the wrong reason, sometimes for a quarter, whatever it may be. But things had been trending in the right direction for them. They had an absolutely embarrassing loss, 30-0 in week 3 at Carolina. Things did not look right. The execution was off. They end up making a bunch of personnel changes on their coaching staff. They get rid of Ike Hilliard, their wide receivers coach. They move Zach Robinson, their OC, down to the field. And they go against Washington, and Michael Penix has his best game as a pro, throwing the ball all over the yard. They have a bye week then. And then going into Buffalo, you're seeing – Buffalo does this, a couple, stretches throughout the season the last couple years where they have 2 or 3 losses in a row. They look really poor. They fix things. So they jumped on Buffalo at the right time. But for this Falcons team, they are good enough to play with anyone in the NFL. The way they run the ball, even though they have injuries on that offensive line, they have the best running back in football right now. I mean, Bijan Robinson is the guy. Bijan Robinson, excuse me. That's still a topic of conversation of how you say his name because
it's okay.
Look, he changes it every 5 minutes. But
yeah, it's an 80-yard touchdown. We'll take it. Okay.
It's an 80-yard touchdown. We'll call you whatever you want us to call you. Okay. But
exactly.
And he has made life a lot easier for Michael Penix Jr. And I think setting up the play action out of the pistol, which is another topic of conversation among Falcon fans, Michael Penix Jr. seems more comfortable now. Moving Zach Robinson down to the field as OC has been beneficial, even though it's a small sample size, 2 games. What you're looking at with this team is I don't think they're going to go on a tear and a hot streak, but this is a team that probably finishes the regular season, you hope, with 10 wins. And I think that could be good enough to get a wild card spot. Maybe it wins the division, even though they're playing catch up with Tampa. It's turning a corner for them right now. They can play with anybody. They have another major test. They got to go out to San Francisco on Sunday Night Football. So we'll see here. The mark of teams is anyone can be good pre-Thanksgiving. This team was 6-3 with Kirk Cousins at one point last year, and everyone's thinking, okay, it's Atlanta and Philly in the NFC, and then they faded very quickly. We'll see what this team is after Thanksgiving when the schedule favors them a little bit down the stretch, how good they are once you have enough tape on Michael Penix Jr. and what he likes to do. Then we'll see if this team's worth their skis or not.
That week 1 win by Tampa Bay at Atlanta. Now massive win.
Massive.
In this division, I think the Buccaneers, I think Baker Mayfield, I said it after the win against Atlanta, MVP candidate. I know that's steam. It is.
Yeah.
That was a huge win. Dude, Carolina, the win against Dallas and Bryce Young, give him credit. Everyone wrote him off, thought, all right, he's a bust. This is going to work. Hey, they're playing better football. And that's the Falcons. If
they're playing much better. And the stat that blew my mind with Bryce Young, this was his 9th win as a starting quarterback in the NFL. The record's not great. 8 of those games have required a 4th quarter or overtime game-winning drive. That they have been so many tight games throughout his career. The exception is that 30-0 win against Atlanta just a few weeks ago, which now seems like a distant memory as far as Falcons fans are concerned. But Carolina is not a pushover that they have been the last couple of years. They're formidable. I don't think they're getting to 10 wins, but somewhere in the 6-7 range, they're going to be a tough out for a lot of teams. New Orleans is New Orleans. Atlanta's got to play catch up with Tampa Bay. And what has plagued this team the last couple of years in December and then the first week of January, the final week of the regular season, they're 4-8. So they have faded rapidly down the stretch of the last couple of years, which has knocked them out of the playoffs. They've had chances to win this division in week 18, but unfortunately, they've put themselves in bad positions and they've needed help from Tampa and don't get it. So this is going to be a thing. December 11th, I believe, is the date you're going to want to circle. The Falcons come down to Tampa Bay. Michael Penix Jr. from Tampa plays his team in his hometown. That's going to be a fun game and have huge implications, not just as far as that division, but potential wild card seedings as well.
Great stuff with Luke Hendrick. I know he's busy. I just want to say this to you. I've not said this officially on record. You do a great job. You are a pro. I appreciate all your help. And I just want to say our colleague, Pat Welter, you think of like Twilight Zone episodes. This dude is asking Bill Belichick questions, breaking down their program. I'm proud of you. But like Pat, he's like, yeah, I got to go on the Today Show tomorrow to break. I'm like, what? Dude, when are we going on the Today Show to break down football? We need to work on this.
We're going to go on the Today Show as those people once Pat wins another, Pulitzer or Murrow or like his 81st Emmy Award, whatever it may be. And we could go, look, we were there from the beginning. I mean, we were doing face-offs with him. We're doing all these things. I was Pat's, fun fact.
What?
I was Pat Welter's intern when I was in college. I don't know if you know that, Mark. I was his intern at WJAC in beautiful Johnstown, Pennsylvania. It's Pat Welter's first TV job. I was his intern. So we've known each other for years and years. And we had a running joke. Whenever Pat would leave a job, I would get it offered right after that. So I got offered his job in Johnstown. I got offered his job in Harrisburg. I basically got on his beat at Florida whenever he left Spectrum. So I just keep following him around wherever he goes. But I will say this: thank you for the kind words for me.
Yeah,
but
man. Yeah.
Pat deserves all the credit in the world. And it's not just he's asking Bill Belichick questions. He's holding Bill Belichick in North Carolina accountable. And he has checked every single box as a journalist throughout his career. He's a phenomenal storyteller. He's a great game day reporter, a creative anchor, everything you want intangible-wise, he has it. And now he is showing not just his station, not just the Triangle Market in Raleigh, North Carolina. He is showing the country just how good of a reporter he is. And it's been a lot of work for him over the last 2 weeks. He is flourishing, and I can't be more proud of him. But again, a lot of the credit does go to us, Mark, because we have been pushing him in that direction. Let's give ourselves a little bit of credit here.
That's right. All right. We're going to break down some type of controversy, and then we'll go on we'll be on with Jimmy Fallon or something. We're going to we're going to figure this out.
The stories that we're going to break is like, hey, there's a change on the menu at Hotel Melby in Melbourne or something like that. Or, hey, we won a wing eating contest at Long Doggers in Cocoa Beach. Like that's the kind of stuff that we're going to break. Like,
look at you name dropping. Dude, my former intern, Courtney Mims, who's now like the sports director there in Little Rock. Yeah. So Courtney, I'm so proud of her where, she's talking to John Calipari, right? And like they're breaking down Arkansas basketball. And I'm like really proud of that. I am. But Pat Welter, he's going after Bill Belichick. Okay. The only thing I can top is I have to get a one-on-one with the president in the office. Okay. That's what it needs to be. Okay.
We'll get you sidelined with Ben Johnson. How does that work? Do you want that?
You've never met since you've known me. My team has not been a legitimate contender in 15 years. I am ready to unleash. I know we're not there yet. I'm ready to unleash evil Bears fan Mark on the world. I will be the biggest jerk on the planet.
It's like Jeepers Creepers. He only comes out every couple decades. When he comes out, there's chaos for the rest of us.
Well, it's like Patriots fans are like, man, we've been bad long enough. Long enough? What was it? 5 years after winning for 20? Oh man!
All those first graders in the Boston area that haven't seen a Super Bowl in a few short
Great
years.
May.
It's terrible for
Big
them.
May time. So, Luke,
Bears fan, Cubs fan, Pittsburgh Pirates fan.
What Atlanta Falcons have never won? Okay, they've never
Falcons
won
have
it.
never won. They've had good teams. They've never won.
Atlanta Hawks.
Atlanta Hawks have never won. Georgia Tech football's last national title was 1990. Georgia's obviously had success the back-to-back years in 21-22. Atlanta United, MLS Cup champions in 2018. Braves, the 21 World Series. So Atlanta's had their moments. The state has had their moments as a whole. Right now, though, we got a manager change in Atlanta, which will be the next big thing to check off for the Braves, who replaces Brian Snitker. Georgia football, Georgia Tech football, not only could they play in the regular season where they will play on Black Friday, but that might be a potential playoff matchup as well.
Yeah.
So
it's gonna
a
be
lot of travel potentially coming up here on the Channel 2 budget.
Luke, my man, thanks for your help and have a great day. All right.
Mark, thank you as always. Be well.